it is, what it do, family. You're tuned into Phenomenal TV, where we serve you entertainment that is nothing but phenomenal. Igama lam nguzane Lepothelwa, and allow me to take you back to the year 2013, when Mzansi Magic premiered Isibaya for the very first time.
This is how I lost my mother.
Get the full story on Isibaya. Starts Monday, 5 May at 8:30 p.m.
South Africans tuned in, ready to be enthralled by this world that was created for us to enjoy. And I can definitely say, with all the confidence in the world, 8 years later, 2,000 plus episodes in, that South Africa is so sad to say goodbye, but we're also so grateful to have had one of the best telenovelas grace our screens. And the way that we as the Phenomenal family are saying goodbye today is we're sitting down with some of the incredible individuals that were part of making that magic. And ladies and gents, I give you a woman who is a queen of her craft. She is somebody who is a powerhouse through and through. Her name is Ayanda Borotho.
Umsebenzi wanamhlanje uhambe kahle. Ngiyazi ukuthi lento bekufanele ukuthi siyenze. Ikakhulukazi kufanele siyenzele ingane zethu.
Hello, beautiful lady.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very good. Just cold, but good.
Yes. I can't imagine what it's like having these kinds of weather conditions in the last week of shooting. But I think the focus is definitely on how you guys are feeling during this time. How would you say the feel on set is and how you're feeling about this being the final week?
Sure. Oh, I call it deep. I don't know if I speak for everybody, but I think, you know, we've known for quite some time that the show is coming to an end. So I think I'm feeling good. I think I have given it my best, and that makes me feel good, knowing that I've given it my best and there was nothing else, nothing more I could give it.
Yeah. This
This was my best. And I feel good that Upumelele, the character, has ended on the journey that she's on. So that makes me feel good. I think the vibe on sets, I think quite honestly, for anybody that's leaving something they've been a part of or a family they've been a part of for 8 years is difficult. So there's no doubt about that. The mood is somber, but I think we appreciate and are grateful that we've been part of a family, a part of an opportunity of something really, like you said in your intro, quite magical. That really changed and challenged the landscape of television. So I live with a grateful heart.
Yes.
I live with a very grateful heart.
And I can imagine you do. I know that you're saying now that everybody is just really grateful and just so glad to have been part of a family. And I'm going to get to that later, but you can definitely always see the chemistry between you guys on camera, just how you get along as a family. But let's take it from the very beginning in 2013. So this is not your first rodeo on Phenomenal TV, because we heard about your audition and the very first time you ever thought of, hey, what's this thing that's a rural telenovela coming to screens? Yeah. So at the time when you heard about it, you did say that for you, you were like, how is this going to work? Why is it, do you think, that it did actually work?
I think it worked because people were invested in bringing their true selves. I think it worked because in the beginning, I think we didn't come into it as individuals, and we understood that. We understood that it wouldn't work if we didn't bring the kind of energy that would build the next person, that would help the next person. And so I think it worked because we wanted to see each other win. I think that's why it worked. Yeah.
And I think all these years later, you can definitely say that it was a win. Because just looking back on it.
It was a win.
Yes.
It was a win. I mean, I don't think, quite honestly, like with any production, with any journey, with anything, it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But I was saying to my daughter today when I was speaking to her early morning, she's having some issues, and I was saying to her, I think for me, life is really just about looking at the positives.
Yeah.
What were the what were the great things that you could take out of it? And even if some things didn't work, and even some things were not so great, what are the lessons that you take out of the experience?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think South Africa took a lot out of Isibaya. I remember there was a time when you guys were just trending all day, every day, and it was the story that everyone was talking about. But I want to just understand from your point of view, Ayanda, especially somebody who's been here for as long as you have, why do you think that it was so important to tell the story that Isibaya was telling on South African television?
Because we were predominantly in a very toxic masculine world, and it was difficult for people to see the positives in that world. That world comes with misconceptions and predefined perceptions.
Yeah.
And I think I think we came into it and it became such an important story to tell because, one, we're talking about a black family, polygamous family, where there was no bewitching between the two wives in the beginning, which is uncommon. And I know from the very beginning we'd always known that we wanted to portray a positive narrative of Isthembu in that regard, and that when women do embrace and understand each other, they can get to a place of sisterhood, right? Even if they're in love with the same man. I think it was important because even the narrative around taxi drivers and them being hardcore and uneducated and all these things that we say about them, that was a narrative that we challenged with Mbiake's character, having a relationship with a daughter, a girl child, where the bond is so strong. And him being able to be affectionate with his daughter. I think it broke a lot of stereotypes in that world. And so it was important I think it was important to tell the story because the narrative around black love and black family has always been one that has been portrayed as something that is dysfunctional. And maybe true to form because our society is largely dysfunctional. But I think it was beautiful to see a black family that was about love and each other on screen.
And I definitely think it was beautiful to see another story being told. Like you're saying, we're so used to what the norm is in society. But seeing that difference, I think, is something that made a difference in South Africa as a whole. Definitely. And why it also made its mark in telenovelas in South African television. But I want to talk about you as well, Ayanda, and your experience over the last couple of years. So when you did your audition, did you know that it was yours? Could you feel it?
No, because when I did, so I'd heard about Isibaya, and I didn't understand why I hadn't been called for an audition. And then I bumped into a colleague in the industry who said to me, "Oh, they finished casting."
Yeah.
So when I was cast, I was cast in somebody else's place who couldn't do the show.
Oh my goodness.
And I remember I got a call from my agent, said there's this show that they're doing, it's all Zulu, taxi and whatever, and I'm thinking, could this be the one? Okay. And then I went and I said to my agent, any script for the audition? She's like, there's no script. I'm like, so what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, no, just go there, you'll be seeing Angus, right? So Gangena and Angus calls me to his office and we had a 2-hour chat.
Sure.
And then, I mean, it was nothing about the show. It was like, I think towards the end, then he told me we're doing the show, It was like a 5-minute thing. And then he said to me, I'm going to put you on camera. And he called 2 guys who put me on camera, and it was an improv scene. And that was it. Yeah. And I left confused, out of my mind.
I was like,
what did this man just do? Like, what was that?
And even your improv, did it make sense? Was there?
So my improv did make sense, but I was worried because she was supposed to play. I was supposed to be a much older woman,
Yeah.
right? And I was 32 when I started this show. I'm 40 now,
Yeah.
and I was a 32-year-old trying to play somebody who's supposed to be 44,
Oh, wow.
and I just thought this is bizarre. But I really just had to call upon. I just really had to call upon truth and light. And so, who did I know who'd represented that kind of woman? And so I channeled my umamkhulu, my mom's older sister, and I took on the voice, and I was like, okay, let's do this. And it was bizarre, strange, very bizarre audition, but I didn't know it was an audition. It didn't feel like an audition. And a day later, my agent calls me to say they're negotiating rates. So it was, it was like audition. I met Angus on Tuesday, Wednesday, they were negotiating rates, and I was thrust into the show the following Monday.
What?
Yeah.
Firstly, can I say 40 never looked so good? Secondly, that is fate on another level. The fact that they had concluded everything and then they still called you. Babes,
Yeah.
I think that just says that you were chosen from the beginning of everything.
I think so.
Yeah.
I very much believe in that. I believe there are no coincidences.
I also don't.
Yeah.
And that's why you were the person that had to be sitting here today talking to us about this incredible show.
Yeah.
Can I ask you though, obviously over the last couple of years, with all of the highlights, which of course Isibaya has had, there's obviously difficulties. But not talking about the show, rather talking about you. What were some of the difficulties that you had in terms of your character and just becoming her as well?
You know, in the beginning, it was finding the character and molding the character was not so challenging because, like I said, I had somebody to reflect on. I had somebody that I was using as my gauge,
Yes.
and this was somebody who was alive at the time. I think the difficulty for me came when Phumelele's journey of becoming her own woman started. And it's something I realized now. Funny, because I was introspecting on it and I was just having a conversation with myself about this. But I think that the difficulty was when she made the decision to leave. I think because we'd played these characters for so long, and for so long we're like a real family, like we're finishing each other's lines, you know, we didn't have to repeat a scene because if somebody forgot to say something, somebody else will jump in and just make the scene work.
Wow.
Like it was, that's how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
And when Phumelele left the Zungus, it was real. It was real even behind the scenes. It was
Yes,
real.
with the scenes and everything.
It was just real. Like the trauma of divorce, the breakdown of the family. It I think because we're so invested in the characters and what we're doing, there really was a breakdown. There was a real breakdown. That was only meant to be for screen, but for some odd reason, it was so hard for us to separate ourselves from what was supposed to be for screen and what was happening behind the scenes. And I think dynamics changed. And dynamics changed because what was on screen was suddenly the emotions that were supposed to be for screen were suddenly influencing the behind the scenes. Yeah. It's like, okay, she's no longer really part of our family, or they're no longer really part of my family.
Exactly.
And it hurt.
Yeah.
It was painful. I think it was a painful breakup. So I think that was the most difficult, and the journey thereafter was hard. I think her finding her feet, her voice, her becoming her own woman on her own, without the security of family and those people, because suddenly everything that you've known for 7 years is taken away from you, and you're having to redefine your reality, your new reality, your new norm. And that was a hard journey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something I appreciate about that story, though, is that I know that so many women around South Africa can just identify with that.
Thousands.
And yes, exactly.
Millions.
And what did it mean to you to be that sort of beacon of light for so many of those women and to be telling their story like that so raw on television?
So earlier you touched on fate.
Yeah.
And I actually think everything that I'd ever done in my life was leading me to this moment in time to tell the story. And for me, that's a fact. It's like everything I'd ever done, the entire 7 years was a preparation for the 8th year, for the end.
It's okay. And I hope you know you're so appreciated for the story that you did tell.
Whew.
And having been strong enough to tell it.
Yeah, I need a minute.
It's okay. Tissue, anyone. Thank you for sharing with us. Do you want me to go get your tissue?
No, it's fine. I thought there was, but it's fine. If there isn't, it's okay.
Okay, he's gonna go get you some.
Sure, where do I begin? Yeah, so at some point, I think during the story, I was just so emotionally drained because I realized that I was carrying so much of Phumelele's emotions and I was taking that home with me. And at some point, I need to leave, I need to go. And the only reason I've stayed to this point is because it really wasn't for me. It was for every female that found strength in her story. And I say this because people would write to me, people would come up to me, and women were leaving toxic relationships because of the story. And like I say, I leave grateful and I leave feeling fulfilled because I feel like what I've been sent out to come and do, I have done. Yeah, I think it was an amazing story to tell in the landscape, South Africa at the time, when the GBV numbers had been on a rise, where we're now deemed like one of the top countries in terms of femicide statistics. But also, I think, most importantly, for me, the importance of this story was really in challenging the toxicity that we had normalized, which was in everyday life for women, right? Because so often when we talk about toxic masculinity, or when we talk about patriarchy, which, by the way, patriarchy is not a bad thing. Patriarchy is a good thing. It's a bad thing when it's toxic.
Yes.
Often when we talk about it, we talk about it in grand scales. So it's when somebody's physically abusing you. It's when somebody is intimidated. You know what I mean? So for me, it was an eye opener even for me.
Yeah.
You know, to see that we have voices that we're unable to use because we're so buried. We're so buried in the social conditioning, the societal standards, the cultural expectations, cultural and traditional expectations. We're so buried in all of that. And it was an eye-opener for me because I would have never walked a mile in the shoes of a woman like Phumelele. And this is where I always think it's profound that as somebody who's educated, I can articulate myself well. I feel like I've got a good family life. I feel like, you look at me and you think, all right.
Yeah.
But I realized somehow, actually, if Phumelele's voice volume was on a 2, mine was probably on an 8. but we were suffering, not even suffering, but there were so many parallels in our journeys as women, because her journey was able to open me up to the things that I hadn't seen as toxic.
Yes.
Because where I am, no man, it's, so I'll give you a typical example. I was saying to somebody the other day, my husband has a thing, when we're at the dinner table, he has his own chair.
Yes.
And I didn't think that was an issue.
It was just
But
normal.
having walked her journey, I realized that I am enforcing a particular narrative even on my children, because ubaba unesihlalo sakhe but uma akanaso. So I started picking up on the little things, which are the everyday things that we as supposedly educated women ignore.
Yes.
Because you think, I've got this, I'm supposed to know this. But I think toxic patriarchy is so embedded and so it's iyanyonyoba, man. It's like we've normalized it so much.
Yes.
That really it's in the little things that show up every day that we don't understand, are the things that enforce that narrative.
And the things we overlook every
The
day
things we
as
overlook
well.
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would wanted to ask you what Upumelele taught you, but you just answered that so beautifully. And I am so thankful that, like I said, you were the person that was chosen for this character, because I don't think anyone else could have done it justice.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing with us today as well. It is honestly such, for me, I can tell you, it is an honor to be able to sit down with you, for someone who has done so much for television and has done what you did with Isibaya.
Thank you.
And before I let you go, may I please ask, because we want to end off on a high, right? What would you say was the biggest highlight for you over the last 8 years? Something that you will never ever forget. And it was just, even if it's a moment or a specific year, something that you know on your last day, you'll still think of it. And even in 20 years' time, you're going to be like, that moment there.
I think there are many moments. I think there are many moments. But like I say, for me, this journey has been the most profound. And I think the most profound moment for me was when she found the willpower to actually walk out of Emagcekeni Abozungu. And the journey was very much supported by her strength, but I think I'm understanding now the importance of willpower, because it is the thing that propels you. It is the thing that pushes you to take that next step. And for me, that was a profound moment, because even throughout the journey, I'd always fall back to that moment when she left, because I kept saying, okay, if she had the willpower to do it then, she'll have the strength to continue this journey. Yes. So even when she was struggling and Daisizija and all of that, for me, that was just her strength playing out. But that moment of willpower is a place where even I go sometimes, where I'm like, if she could do it, Nami, I can. It's really just about, in this moment, do I have the will to put this foot in front of this foot?
Amen.
And then kancane, the strength will push me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for having been strength to all of those women that were watching, and all of us young women as well that were watching. You just do your thing and just chase what was in front of you so beautifully. And I'm so excited to see what the future holds for you as Ayanda Borotho, the queen that you are.
Thank you.
And may your journey be so blessed, because you blessed us as South Africa.
Thank you.
Thank you so
for
much.
having me. Thank you guys for allowing us into your homes.
Of course.
And invading your space and allowing us to push the the narrative.
Yes.
Thank you. And being accepting of the narrative.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a good narrative. That's why we
It was a
accepted it.
good
It was a good narrative.
It was a good narrative.
Her name is Ayanda Borotho, and I don't have to tell you anything more. You have seen the gold, you have taken it in. I hope that you have learned from it as well. And like we said, farewell to Isibaya. And we will see Ayanda Borotho very soon. It's just about where.
Hi guys, I'm taking 3 months.
Take your 3 months, Nana. You deserve it. 8 years is a very long time. We appreciate you and we love you, Ayanda, and thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much, my love. Ngiyabonga.